Hey, so here we are. We are here with a new guest, the infamous Joel Ucko. He has joined us here all the way from Edgware, United Kingdom, from my homeland of London. Joel, take it away. Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. We're having one rule on this podcast, much to this dismay of most of the listeners currently. We will not be talking about Watford United. That is completely off limits. But other than that, Joel, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself.
Firstly, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I take immense gratitude to your offer of having me, and it's truly amazing to see this podcast, going from strength to strength. And I can only wish you immense chazak v'amatz for its continued journey.
Just by the way, I just want to say this is in honor of your grandfather, by the way, who's currently in surgery at the moment. Is that correct?
He's in recovery.
He's in recovery. Amazing. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So, if you're welcome to say his name for people to daven for a refuah.
Shalom Gershon ben Kreindl.
So Bezrat Hashem, he should have a full refuah, and everything will be okay. Fine. So take it away.
So I guess sort of the topic, or sort of one of the fundamental parts of sort of my appearance on this podcast is discuss my relationship with Hashem. And I think having a relationship with Hashem is not just as easy as saying I have a great relationship with Hashem. I think with every relationship, there's going to be the highs, there's going to be the lows, there's going to be the good, and there's going to be the bad times. And there's definitely sort of in all relationships going to be you questioning whether there really is a relationship, how valid my relationship is, whether this relationship is for me. And I think I've definitely been through that. When I was just 14, I underwent quite complex open heart surgery for subaortic stenosis. If there's any medical students listening, I can literally see you going onto the internet to search what that is and asking themselves if they can take a medical history of me. Please note, the answer is no. I'm joking.
We'll get everyone in the DMs. Hit up Joel Ucko.
So yeah, I think sort of.
Do you want to give us a little background into before life was like in the hospital?
So just to sort of give some kind of background, I had a chest infection when I was 9 or 10 years old, probably caused by being one of those that would be playing football in the playground, even when it was hailing down with rain. And, after a few days, hadn't really recovered. So my parents took me to the doctors to get antibiotics, sort of as is standard practice. And the doctor who listened to my heart through a stethoscope and noticed that there was sort of a crunching kind of beat. It's what you call a heart murmur, sort of a very irregular heartbeat. So he told my parents, I was sent out the room, that that he's not particularly happy. And sort of the next day, I was then off to see a specialist pediatrician in Great Portland Street Hospital, who ran some examinations and seemed puzzled himself. That was the first moment in which my entire family freaked out. My mum's parents, who are living in Liverpool, came straight down. My dad's parents in Israel, considering coming down. It was the first very scary moment. And then the next day, I was then on my way to Harley Street Clinic, which is in fact a hospital, one of the biggest, most specialist private hospitals in the UK, specializing in cardiac surgery. And I went to see a guy called Professor John Deanfield. And I had like a 45-minute scan, and he basically said, like, it's just an irregular heartbeat, it's a bit of a leaky valve, like nothing to worry about, we just need to monitor it. So I was having annual monitoring every year. And then when I was 13, I was in the February of year 9, I had my annual checkup. And I go to Professor Deanfield, and he takes one look at he takes a look at my heart on the ultrasound scanner, and his face just like drops. Like there had been quite a significant deterioration. And bearing in mind, like he's a professor in cardiology, he's seen it all before, but even then, like he was quite surprised that it had been quite a significant deterioration, considering 12 months earlier, he said everything's fine, everything's it's looking quite settled. So I obviously freaked out, as did my mum. I think my dad was in a toy fair in Germany at the time. And my mum called him straight away out of the meeting and just said, look, like Joel's.
Do you understand what was happening during this time? Do you realize the extent of what was going on?
I mean, he said to me that there was a 30% chance of open heart surgery and I would need to have further tests.
As a 13-year-old, how does that affect you?
So at the time, I completely freaked out. I didn't really know where to put myself. So what happened was we sort of ended the appointment there because nothing was just going to get through me. Like me sitting outside in the waiting room, the doctor was having a conversation with my mum, was going to be equally distressing as me being in the room. Because when you're outside, you're thinking the worst, and you're literally breaking down as a child when a doctor's having a conversation about you with your parents. Mm-hmm. So the cardiologist called my mum the next day and basically said, I know I said 30% chance, because I didn't want to get the idea out of Joel's head completely, and I didn't want to rule it out to him completely. However, we think we're looking more at like 90%. So like a 90% chance of surgery. So I went down. He gave me the green light on my CIT, Baruch Hashem. And I was really, really stressed out. I sort of, just to kind of give some context, my behavior in school, in Yavne College, sort of rapidly deteriorated quite quickly because I was sort of behaving badly to sort of cover up my stress, cover up the anxiety of what was potentially going on in my body. Not to say that I've ever been perfectly behaved in any lesson at all. Like,
definitely attest to that.
Ucko 2.0 became Ucko 200.0. I mean, and to be fair, Yavne College, which was my school at the time, was being amazing about it. Like, I was practically being allowed to get away with murder without actually murdering anyone.
This was year 9 when this was all happening?
So this was year 9.
So just for our American listeners, that is, I believe, grade 8. Grade 8? Yeah. Grade 8 at that point.
I think so. So to throw another knuckleball in now, I'm really, really stressed. We're not really sure what's going on. Cardiologist said we're going to do some more extensive scans in August, and then we're going to take it from there. To throw another knuckleball in there just before YCIT, I mean, there's a bit of hashgacha pratis in what I'm about to say, but my house burnt down.
I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
My house burned down. Hashgacha pratis. Firstly, my tefillin and my dad's tefillin were in the one room which didn't actually get touched by the fire. But also, it was my cousin's bat mitzvah, and Baruch Hashem, the entire family were at the house. The house fire happened because the washing machine exploded. Which was quite scary. And when it happened, when that happened, sort of not really the point of this.
Did you know over Shabbos that this had happened? Had someone come to tell you?
So it was on the Sunday night. It was on the party. It was on the party on the Sunday night. And my uncle was speaking. My dad's phone starts vibrating in his pocket like mad. He runs out, weren't to see him again. At the bat mitzvah, I think our best family friend called him out to say your house is on fire. Next thing you know, it's fire brigade calling you, say, yeah, just so you know, we've broken into your house because it's in flames. Obviously my dad ran out. My mum knew quite quickly, but sort of wanted to keep a brave face. My uncle, my aunt, who were, they were bugging out, like, where the hell is my dad gone? I think they're sort of, to a degree, getting quite offended that he'd just gone out on.
I feel like he had a fairly decent excuse.
So as soon as they found out, because we didn't want to tell them during the bat mitzvah, because otherwise, you don't want a family event, another family drama to, there's supposed to be quite a lot of Ucko family dramas, but you don't want a family drama to ruin a family simcha. So we told them. I think we told them the next day. I think my mum's dad knew. I think my dad texted him just so he knew as well. And we sort of went, 6 of us, somehow slept in a 2-person flat with my grandparents. It was very, very nice. And then we went to live in a village for the next like 6 weeks, village hotel. You know, it's really good stuff, but it's not quite the intercontinental. So
this was all the while going on before your surgery?
This was all going on before my surgery and before like I'd even been told that I was going to need surgery, and like it was like in the middle of my anxiety about the potential of needing surgery, not actually being told I need surgery, and prior to going on YCIT. So it was a really, really horrible time.
So this must have been a very tough time for your family as well. Like,
so
dealing with the stress of a child having to get surgery is tough enough. To have your house burned down, wow.
So it was hard. It was, but from my point of view, the fact that the loss assessors granted us a new TV free of charge, granted me a new laptop following my admits, which I didn't actually get, and you know, like it was amazing. It was
always looking on the positive side.
Yeah, I always had, and to be honest, kind of at that time, like the World Cup was on, so it was like, you know, so good distractions in the hotel.
This was 2016?
2014.
Sorry.
Was it the Euros? Whatever, World Cup, Euros. Even I'm a football expert and I don't remember all the years. So yeah, I went on YCIT. I had a really good time.
So YCIT is Yavne College International Travel? Israel Tour, sorry. That does make a bit more sense, yeah. So explain YCIT just for...
It's literally just sort of 3 weeks in Israel, was it 19 days in Israel, going around with your friends, your teachers, and sort of learning about Israeli culture, Israeli history. It's sort of like Israel Tour in year 11 or grade 12 in America. It's sort of early, so I sort of got to go on tour twice.
Grade 10 for them, I believe. Yeah.
Sorry. I managed to, you know, so I went, and you know, my anxiety obviously was quite bad. I couldn't do some of the hikes with the heavy lifting, whatever. It was really scary. You know, it wasn't scary because I felt left out, but also because of what was going on with the house fire. I was sort of missing out what was going on at home, and to throw another knuckleball in there. It was also the time of the 2014 Israel-Gaza conflict.
Wow. So suddenly
it became Yavne College Israel Tour to Yavne College Northern Israel Tour, because we couldn't go to Jerusalem, we couldn't go anywhere up south.
Yeah.
It was a whole shtick, like everywhere, like our entire itinerary was changed because you know, of the safety of the country.
So just a question, by the way. So you're 21 currently, yeah? You're 21. So you're technically the year above. So when because you're saying 2014 you're in year 9. So I'm just thinking back. I just during that Gaza war at that point, or it was the Gaza war.
You've been in year 8.
Yes, I would have been year 8. So right now we're in the same year. So just for context, for those who didn't know, just throwing this back out there, Joel and I went to JFS together for 2 years. That's where originally we went.
You're about to call JFS Yeshiva.
No, because I was gonna say Reisha at Yeshiva and Reisha, but then I went back first. I realized that we met before that. So Joel and I have been through things. We've been through tough times in the Escobar effect.
You better
gotta shout out Yossi Fraser. Yeah.
Hello, what about Mia Curtis Fox? Curtis Fox? How dare you?
Yeah, long but not forgotten. So we were in JFS together for 2 years. We did in most classes we were together, and then we went to Yeshiva together. So during that time, so we were in the same year. So do you want to? I'm assuming we'll get back into it, but so at what point in time did you change years then? And was that due to the complications of the surgery?
As a result of my heart surgery, of which I practically lost the whole of year 10 and year 11, because I started messing around and I just sort of lost interest in education. You know, partially at the same time, I lost trust in God a little bit. I didn't do very well with my GCSEs, my grade 11 scholarships. So we took the decision that rather than me, you know, the best thing for me to do was to go to a college called West Arts College for a year. It's the only football thing I'm going to say currently, which is that being close to what Palestine meant, I had a very solid mincha spot in the winter every day. The next best thing to a shul.
Mhm.
or on a match day a better thing than a short. I called it the real Mikdash Ma'at. Um, but yes, I went there for a year. It was it was more sort of a reset year for me, getting my mind back in order. Socially, things have gone very wrong for me a little bit, so just get myself back in order, sort of deal with PTSD of the heart surgery, which was significant and is still present today. And then
So
go have
so
fresh start
there
in U11 in
so there
JFS.
you told, I remember discussing this. We said you dealt with a lot of anti-Semitism in West London. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was
So
there was anti-Semitism. Yeah.
so do you want to give some context to that? What exactly happened? We're going to delve back into the heart
There
story
were
surgery.
plenty of Holocaust remarks there.
Yeah.
There was once.
Why do
There
you
was
think?
one.
Why do you think it was directed at? Do you think you were outwardly? Was it because you're outwardly Jewish? Like, what was the?
So
Did you get
unfortunately,
into conversations with them about it, or was it all
not
directed straight at
unfortunately,
you?
but fortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, I always wore my kippah and was always sort of quite proud to show off my Judaism, but not just in the way that I dress, but also in the way that I speak. And I would always be quite confrontational if somebody ever sort of questioned why I did something in a certain way, not in an aggressive way, but I always wouldn't be sort of shy to let them know why, but maybe not in the best way. And often, there's anti-Semitism is a really, really terrible thing, but unfortunately, very prominent in society right now. And I
And
wasn't
it's probably seen as a
maturely
joke
geared.
at that point.
Yeah, and I wasn't geared, A, in terms of my maturity, but B, in terms of having had, in terms of having conversations in terms of how to deal with it. In learning how to deal with it. And I either sometimes I said the wrong thing, and these people are immature as well. When you put two immature people together, that spells trouble. And that's probably what caused the anti-Semitism. But that said, I knew it was a temporary thing. I wasn't there to make
Do you think it
friends.
was? Do you think it was malicious when they were saying it, and like very specifically because you were Jewish, or do you think it was like, as in, do you think they were really being anti-Semitic, or do you think they were just, that was their way to cause trouble and stuff like that? Do you think it was really like it was coming from the heart that
Mummish. I think it was a combination of they were out there to cause anti-Semitism, and I was there to entertain the fight. And I don't think anyone who wants to say anyone who thinks otherwise, like, I wasn't perfect in any situation that I encountered, and I definitely said the wrong things which triggered them more and almost provoke a reaction.
Yeah.
And when you outwardly provoke a reaction, it's impossible to know whether something is malicious or not in that situation.
Sure.
So it's something I guess I'll never know, but actually you don't want to think about whether you'll never ever know it or not. It's more about how you grow and how you respond from that. And for me, what I know is I've learned from my mistakes and how I deal with something like that. So it's like how I respond to somebody who may not be thinking from the same page as a Jew, or may not be out there to be best mates with the Jews or with any Jew.
Do you think your relationship with Hashem grew in a time when you're being so confronted with anti-Semitism? As in, do you think the fact that you had to defend yourself constantly helped you in your growth and connection to him? Or do you think, if anything, it caused you to, on the other hand, I don't want to put words in your mouth, like, what, do you think it had any effect or nothing really at all?
So be honest, like, you're asking a great question. I think the answer to it is very simple. I at the time I was going on a journey of rebuilding my trust in Hashem.
So do we want to go back then to before, so we can link it all together?
Yeah, we can put some context and tie it together. Yeah, we can put some context and tie it to Hashem.
I assume that from the fact that you're saying you had to rebuild your trust in Hashem, that would assume that it was broken down. And you were saying before as well that, like, you definitely were, like, upset at Hashem, like, making you go through all of this. So do you want to run us through that journey a little bit?
I went through a period of time where I was literally davening for the sake of davening. Almost my dad wouldn't get angry with me, but without any kavanah and literally without having any emunah. Any emunah, any bitachon. I didn't have any of it. Just sort of, go back on ourselves a little bit.
Do you want to, just by the way, we like to give context to and translate a little bit, just because the audience, we're still working the audience out. So just for those who might not know, Emunah is belief in Hashem, and B'tochen is trust in Hashem. So I was told by my mom actually that I've got to be careful when you talk yeshivish, just because not often like I assume everyone like understands exactly what everything means in context.
Never make any assumptions.
Yeah, because I only learned
never make any assumptions.
B'tochen I only learned 4 months ago. I remember Rob Eli, so the Rosh Shiva, like the Mashgiach of I think he's the Mashgiach. Yeah, he's the
Mashgiach
of Rasha. So he does a Shana Bet, like the second year program, like a Musa for us. And he like did a very big thing on B'tochen. And ever since then, like I had no idea what it meant. And ever since then, that's like, do you remember Sam Last? So we're giving Sam Last a shout out. So me and Sam Last have like a thing, like just like we just came back from Eretz Yisrael, and we had like the Hashgacha protest, like the help from Hashem there, like was crazy. The fact that we got there and just I kept on saying to him, just like Habitochen, just trust Hashem. We're meant to be there, we get there. It's like just I'm trying to give context and stuff like that. So I apologize if this is mansplaining. That's not the. I'm not completely sure what I need to do and what I don't. But it's part of the growing as the podcast.
Can I just say though, when it comes to Emunah and B'tochen, there are loads of different perspectives which I see it from, and almost every single one is valid.
Yeah.
And I almost think that
in what
actually
sense?
the spine and pinnacle of Judaism is Emunah and B'tochen. That's always been my personal opinion, as I'll go on and explain shortly with my story.
So take us back a little bit. So you were just going in on how in year 9 you were just after the fire happened. So this is pre.
So I've been on YCIT.
You'd been on YCIT. You hadn't had a good time.
So I'd had a great time on YCIT, but I'd obviously been quite homesick because of what was going on, sort of the other side of my life, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
From YCIT. YCIT was also an unsettling experience because of what was going on up north, not up north, down south.
Do you want to start your video again? Sorry, just what?
So with what was going on in Israel at the time was obviously unsettling, but I had a great time. I was probably the loudest guy on my bus. Not that's very hard, and I was really enjoying. I had a really good time. So I came back to end of July now, and then sort of now the grand countdown to the big appointment. Now my parents didn't tell me the date of the big appointment because they didn't want me to stress about it, whatever. But I was able to feel and sense when it was coming, and then it unfortunately got leaked by a family member of mine, and I knew the week before. But that might have turned out to be quite a good thing. That might have turned out to be quite a bad thing because I don't think I'd have responded well if I'd sort of been told an hour in advance that I was going for the MRI. So I was sort of mentally able to prepare myself. So I had the MRI, which was like a horrible hour long and a thing in a claustrophobic little tunnel.
And is it that they make you drink that weird stuff? Or do you not have that one?
Go there. Do not even go there.
It's disgusting, no? They make you drink like this fluid that allows your whole body to be like seen through the MRI.
So your veins get seen.
Yeah. Oh, disgusting.
I felt sick. I felt absolutely grim.
I remember they would give me. I had one once, and they gave me like 10 cups to drink of it. You just feel every time you drink it, like I don't know if you ever watched Harry Potter, but like that scene with Dumbledore, like in the 6th movie where he's like keeping drinking, he's like, please, no more. Just like remind me of that horrible stuff. But continue.
So I drank that stuff, and perhaps the worst part of the MRI was the fact that the music playlist wasn't working. So all I could hear for an hour and a half was bang, 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 and I couldn't get anyone's attention to say that the music was wasn't working, but yet they could speak to me. And they had no idea what was going on my end. How dare they? So the fact that I came out of that MRI without actually flipping at anyone was probably enough to warrant benching Gomel at the time. Not that I knew. And then sort of a week later, I had a couple of blood tests. I had an extensive another extensive ECG and an echocardiogram, and there the news gets broken to me that there'd been another significant deterioration since February, and we have to operate within the next 6 months, or else, unfortunately, we won't be looking at a particularly great proposition and a great prognosis. So I obviously flipped out. I'd never been so emotional in my life. I was in a really, 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 really bad way, up to the extent after that appointment, I wouldn't even eat a Reuben's takeaway.
Joel's in a very bad way if he's not eating Reuben's takeaway.
So it was a really horrible moment for me. It was a horrible moment. It was the one time I'd seen my dad cry in front of me. Because it's a risky surgery, it was a complex surgery. My mum also cried. It was really horrible. Mentally, I flipped. I went the other way. And then I restarted school in year 10, and I sort of went into school. I was not sleeping. I don't think I slept at all the surgery took place on December the 11th. We're currently talking August 23rd, 24th. I don't think I slept at all, between then and the surgery.
So how long was the recovery after the surgery?
So we'll talk about the surgery in a minute, but just sort of different context now.
Oh, you're saying, sorry. So the MRI was December 11th, and then August 24th was
August 23rd was the MRI results. December the 11th, I had the surgery.
I hear. Okay.
So in that time, I don't think I slept at all. My parents definitely didn't sleep.
What was going through your mind in a sense of, because you're talking about your relationship with Hashem at this point, this was in the downwards.
It was at that point I stopped putting on my tefillin for a period of time. I think
you were angry.
I don't remember
what
exactly. Was I was basically asking every what the point of me was. I asked why God has literally just brought me into this world to just throw every bad thing out. I was in a really, really horrible place. My house was building site. And I was very, very unwell. And it was a really, really, really nasty time. And I was only getting more unwell at the time until the surgery. And mentally, it was just really, really debilitating. Things which I really always appreciated, stopped appreciating, and sort of the countdown. Fortunately, at the time was it was almost a countdown till God decides that it's time to give me the next stage of His treatment on me. Whatever that could be.
Did you see yourself coming out of the surgery? Was that a fear that you wouldn't come out of the surgery?
There was. My mentors from Yavna will tell you. I firstly stopped entertaining myself with any of my friends in Yavna. I would go to my lunch, and it would literally be I'd just be sitting there crying, because it would be one less lunch break of my life. Really? I was absolutely certain that there was going to be an ending out of this, which was not going to be the one which anyone wanted. And for my parents, that was really, really hard. For my family, that was really, really hard. For my friends, that was really, really hard, because the UK, which they knew, had just become an emotional wreck, but justifiably. And whatever anyone said to me was going to be the wrong thing at that time, because I had soaked it up in my mind that this surgery was going to kill me.
Really?
And
that's such a tough mindset to be living in.
I can do. Yeah, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I woke up for school every day. I didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to be anywhere. I didn't know what I wanted of myself. I felt as if I had no mission in life. And I had absolutely no confidence in anything or in anyone. So it was sort of, the goal was just to get me through to the surgery and just keep some element of positivity. But I lost all faith in not just Hashem, but everyone. I started questioning what the purpose of this world is. And I was having quite intense thoughts for a 14-year-old, to say the least. But, as I said, ones which were justifiable, but ones which were so extreme and so far gone that nobody could really crack those thoughts, because when you're about to have something so big and so major, it's impossible to do so. So without going into details, sort of period going between getting the news to the surgery, it was a really, really tough time. So we then get to the week before the surgery, and I had a Yavna College Shabbaton YCIT reunion with the Madrichem, and I went in to that Shabbaton And I remember the thing that I said. I think I said it on the bimah on a Friday night. And yeah, I was davening for Kol Shabbos, and I said, guys, this is going to be the final Kol Shabbos I'm ever going to daven, or something like that. But at the same time, there was a light bulb moment, and I don't know where this light bulb moment came from. But I said to myself, if there's ever a time, I'm going to just give Hashem that bit of trust and show Hashem what I believe I am to this world. I believe I am to getting a full recovery. It's now. So I davened a very, very powerful Kabbalah Shabbos. I don't think it was that good. I think I was an emotional wreck at the time. But I think for anyone in that room, they should be able to tell you if there's one thing which came out of that Kabbalah Shabbos, and that Shabbos for me as a whole was the fact that I was determined to fight every single day and every single moment. And that's exactly sort of what the hidden mentality was behind the faces of me losing trust and everything. And I remember I got called up to do maftir, and I was in floods of tears. It was a very, very emotional weekend. I didn't really go to any of the activities because I was sort of crying, just wanting to get my thoughts out. But there was a light bulb moment. I was willing to talk rationally. The first time when going a week into surgery, a lot of people say they weren't surprised by it. They thought it would happen. Apparently, it's quite normal. But I was very surprised looking back that that had happened. So yeah, that Shabbaton was incredibly moving for the right reasons, I would say. And it was at that point where I was told that, kind of that Misha Berach was given for me. And I was sort of crying. I was emotional. My parents weren't there. My parents were obviously doing their own thing, having their own Shabbos, probably stressing out, probably wondering, stressing out how I was coping. But Yavna then kind of in the weeks, my surgery gave me a really easy week. Not that I'd had it easy at all, but it was an easier week. They told me I didn't need to go to lessons. So anyway, the day before my surgery, I had the pre-op, and I saw my hospital room, and I got really excited because they literally decorated my whole hospital rooms with Watford colours. And I was really touched by it. I was really touched.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was this hint of positivity. Or maybe the hint of positivity came because they gave me diazepam, which is like a relaxative drug. And there was this hint of positivity. And there was this hint of actually, I'm going to do this. And then I went home. I had a Sammy's takeaway, my final meal, before my heart surgery. And then a family friend came over, who basically said to me that whatever comes out of this, just remember one thing: what knocks you makes you stronger. And I wasn't feeling that at the time, but looking back, it really resonates with me. As I'll discuss sort of shortly. But at the time, it was almost like I needed to hear it. I needed to hear sort of that encouragement just to keep fighting and to fight and just to be brave. And the next day, I vomited that whole night. I was vomiting out of stress, anxiety, nerves. I went to shul the next morning, and I got called up in the Adas. I was in tears. My dad's with me. I was in tears. Gave some tzedakah. And then I went to the hospital. From that point on, I suddenly went from being quite emotional just to very subdued and quiet. Why, I don't know. But I think it was because at that point, maybe I'd had that faith. I found that faith. Maybe I sort of said, if I stay quiet and just trust the process, things will come good. And then a medical nurse came in, who was a student, and asked me if they could be in their surgery. And I just cracked up and asked if she'd ever been involved in a heart surgery before. So obviously my humor hadn't gone.
Yeah.
But what I think was incredibly special was before the surgery, they said to me, we're going to take you down for surgery in 15 minutes, but we understand as a religious Jew you may want to pray, so we want to give you that time. And I said, hang on a second. They want to give me that time just to speak to Hashem one more time. They've gone out their way to say that to me. And I sat there, I stood davening Amidah with my dad. And my dad was planning on davening in a minute, but I think he felt at the time it was right to daven with me. And we davened. And then I went down for surgery, knocked out for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, for surgery, and then another 15 to 24 hours, kind of in ICU. Also, during the surgery, my parents are really like, they're bugging out. Their son's going in heart surgery, risky heart surgery. They don't know if he's going to wake up. Like, they don't know what it's going to be like when he wakes up. So they go, and a family friend comes. They take them to Selfridges, which is on Oxford Street, like a very posh shop. And they just end up binge spending on things they don't need. And my parents look back and they say that was Hashem taking their mind off things. Hashem changing the focus to them. Their son is in heart surgery. They've gone out shopping on a day out. And my mom said it was very surreal looking back. Like, they literally just went and they just weren't thinking. And it was like Hashem was hypothetically putting things in their shopping basket. Which again may seem strange, but makes a lot of sense.
Selfridges isn't exactly the cheapest place to be sending them at that point.
To be fair, they got the nicest Nespresso cups. My mum has never admitted, and has said that in her life she will never ever show anyone the receipt. However, at the same time, my parents look back at that receipt and they say like, that receipt was Hashem. That was Hashem getting them a present, telling them to treat themselves for being amazing parents and for doing their best. I woke up, it was a Thursday night. I speak to my brother, speak to my family, my grandparents, family friends come see me in ICU. I got no idea I was flying until.
Did you like sort of realize that, okay, wait, I'm here, I'm alive? Is that like,
so
that
what,
goes
the
against you?
The first time since heart surgery, I really knew I was alive. It was in ICU when my dad made Kiddush next to me on Friday night.
Really?
What
was that moment?
That was 36 after, 30 hours after heart surgery. Open heart surgery.
Why did that hit you?
My dad blessed me, and he just came and he sang Shalom Aleichem next to me, and then he made Kiddush. That really hit me. And it hit me because it was my first memory of ICU. And it's like, what a first memory to have. Like, again, that was God. I think that God must have had something to do with that. God wanted me to see the beauty of Shabbos.
Yeah.
God
impact
God wanted me to feel Ner Shabbos.
Yeah.
It was actual Shabbos. God wanted me to see Ner Shabbos. God felt I needed a Shabbos. So he gave it to me. And I was meant to be in ICU for 4 days. But after that moment, suddenly I started really making a massive improvement. An improvement to the extent that I was able to firstly leave hospital a few days earlier than initially scheduled, but I was also able to leave ICU on Shabbos day and was able to be in the room and actually have my first meal since heart surgery was Shabbos lunch. And it was just a bowl of chicken soup, the Jewish penicillin. But again, it was suddenly almost incredible that the first meal I have following heart surgery is a Shabbos meal. Obviously, I didn't have a whiskey for Kiddush. Don't think I had any grape juice. But the l'chaim that came just from being able to have lunch with my father was incredible. And my mum, the halachas of child being in hospital and how you can communicate, was sort of, there were lots of heterim given by our family rabbi, and my mum found out through the nurse leaving a message on the answer phone in the house. And when the phone was going to ring, you always fear the worst when you're on my mum's side at home. And she said again, like, that was one of her most special moments. And she came down straight away after Shabbos with a nice big box for me. And what was in that big box? Cheeky little Xbox. It's not the point.
Hey, listen, getting in heart surgery just for that Xbox.
Yeah, it was just the Xbox. Ton of chocolate, and that's why I used to be fat, or whatever.
Uko's journey from fat to
fat to thin. I went to gym this morning. I was proud of myself.
My boy.
Yeah, so my family come, they come see me, and on a Sunday morning, I put my head to filling on for the first time, and I say the brachas and I say the Shema, and that's all I had the energy to say. No, I put filling on my right arm normally, but on both arms there were drips and stuff, so I couldn't. So I just put filling on my head. I put my shell rush on, and again I said the Shema said the brachas, and I just felt that at that point, I just looked into the sky. I must have looked into the sky where I did sunny, and I just screamed, "I love you." The question is, who do I love? But I must have said, "I love you" to somebody, and maybe that person was Hashem. Just
You know
sort of
what
now,
caused that moment?
drugs.
That's fair.
I was
That's
high
very
on
fair.
something. Morphine
Yeah.
does some very interesting things to you, as does laughing gas.
I hear. And
So
during this time,
whatever it
you were
was,
in a lot of pain. That's why you were on
so
it.
I was very, very, very physically resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very physically resilient human being, almost too physically resilient.
Mm-hmm.
But surely when I'm just screaming in the air, "I love you," and I'd already told my parents how much I love them, thanking them for everything, that must have been just me just thanking Hashem, especially when it's with your tefillin on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's not, I don't know what it's.
So
So
that's one of those
I'm going.
moments that really like stuck with you and like changed your journey.
It's one of those moments which just, I wouldn't say it changed my journey, because I don't know how aware
It
of
was
it I was
part
at
of
the
your
time,
yeah.
but it was definitely something to look back on
Mm-hmm.
in terms of my true emunah at the time.
Yeah.
Had the true trust I had. I just thought I don't want to go to the hospital. My food, I wasn't eating hospital hamolis meals. There was Reuben's around the corner, so I was sort of living off Reuben's chicken soup. And my dad was saying to my mum that I needed a salt beef sandwich just so we could have two. He loves it. He loves it. So yeah. And I was released from hospital a few days later. I was obviously very, very tired, still quite a bit of pain, and the recovery was only going to be on the up. And obviously I'd had a few follow-up appointments, things, and now Baruch Hashem, very, very stable. It was a very, very traumatic period. There were obviously small complications in hospital here and
So
there.
this was 2015 at that point. What is like January 2015?
I got released on the 18th of December, and I was meant to get released like near before close to Christmas.
Really? Because you went in on December 11th.
But what was really poignant, actually, about the date that I got released was first night Hanukkah.
Really?
I got released.
Wow.
And we know that now Hanukkah is a festival of miracles. And I think there's something, again, another just really, it just showed that God was by my side the whole time. And then to sort of now bring us into yeshiva a little bit, where I sort of really started to make sense of it. We learned, I think it's in the 5th or the 6th daf, Amud Aleph, it's either Hey or Daled or Hey of Gemara Brachas, Amud Aleph, Eli will be very proud. But we learn about the concept of Yisurim, suffering. Alongside that, hold that thought, the first bracha after Baruch Hu, Yosef over Choshech, Osa Shalom, V'reas Hakol, blessed are you, Hashem, the God who is our King of the world, who forms light, creates darkness, and who makes peace and creates all. I look back at that, and that's a very, 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 very powerful bracha. Because what that bracha means is it shows that actually the life which we live, the whole world which we live in, is just a cycle where we experience happiness, we experience suffering, we experience darkness. We experience all forms of emotion, but actually, God, the emotion, the intensity in which you feel that emotion is set by God at a point in which He believes you can handle. And I look back at that and I say that actually, do you know what? Like, looking back down the line, I wouldn't be the person I am now. I wouldn't have gone through any of that. I wouldn't have lost faith in God. I wouldn't have gone through heart surgery. I wouldn't have had my house burned down. It wasn't for God thinking and believing in me that I could deal with those challenges. Again, what knocks you make you stronger. You know,
it's true. When you lose the faith and have to regrow it yourself, it becomes genuine. It becomes something out of truth.
And I think
I
I'm almost privileged that God put me through that, because actually it's made me who I am now. It's made me love Him that much more. It's made the kavanah in my tefillah that much stronger. There's something just incredibly powerful that comes with the experience I've been through. And when you experience something, so sort of traumatic, so debilitating, and sort of so long-winded in the way that I did, in both the pain and the joy that comes with it, you almost feel a sense of a sense of gratitude, frustration, but all of which sort of goes on this journey to actually just feeling alive. I feel, what do I mean by that? I feel alive. I feel like a real person. I've come to feel like I have a story to tell. I've come to feel like actually I've been on this journey. I've come to the destination on the journey. I've come through it on a stronger person. But most of all, I've come on this journey appreciating what's important to me in life and what my true values are in life. I can tell people what the power of Hashem is, what the power of tefillah is. There were people on the day of my heart surgery which went to daven for me in the kotel. There were people which went out of their way to learn from me. There were people in yeshivas which did a Yom Yom for me. There were people everywhere which went out their way, who I'm immensely thankful for. But all of that is what has made me really believe in what is a very genuine world that we live in. But in the genuine world that we live in, there is somebody pulling the strings behind the scenes, and that's Hashem. And the strings that Hashem are pulling for you as a person are the ones which he believes he needs to pull for you. Because in the same way that when you, in the same way that when a teacher sets you questions, a tutor sets you questions, ahead of a maths exam, which they believe will challenge you but not overwhelm you. I think God did the same with me. I think he almost expected me to be overwhelmed in a way that I am, but overwhelmed to the extent that I will come out of it with a much more positive outlook and a much more loving outlook on him. But loving outlook so I can get other people to love him. And I think that's, for me, something which I still think about now.
That was truly incredible. Like, honestly, firstly, I just want to say thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you and just hear this journey and this story, because it truly is incredible. Like, the fact that you understand this all about your own journey and stuff, and see the nuances and everything within your growth, it truly is incredible. And firstly, also kol hakavod to your parents, because they must have been going through just the toughest of times, like the house burning down,
arguably
you going through this surgery. Yeah, it was it's definitely on par. Heart surgery for someone, but for it's hard, but for their parents, of course, it's traumatic for them.
Can I just say, the house fire was more of an inconvenience than anything else?
In what sense?
In the sense of what I was going through.
Yeah, I hear. It's another one of the challenges that Hashem was putting through, and
the world is just Hashem testing you.
Exactly.
When it's often hard. You get a reward.
It's often hard to see at the time, Hashem's love, when such hard things are happening. And so it's just incredible to come out of it and just see it in hindsight, all the chesed that he was doing during that time. What would you say the best thing that came out of the house by burning down, other than your TV and the what else did you get from it, and the computer?
TV, computer.
Because the bathroom got redid. Yeah, we haven't redid
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we didn't really delve so much into the Watford and all your friends there. I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to have time.
We can quickly. What I will say, actually, I don't know if it's necessarily the point.
Yeah.
But sort of keeping it brief. When it comes to mental health, Watford FC was a very, very good distraction for me. I became friends with a few of the players. Who I'm still close with now. But I think having the right, for me, it was my heart surgery. It wasn't just a physical illness; it was also it turned into a mental illness. Mm-hmm. And Watford FC was very much the treatment for my mental illness, which I know some people might be laughing, but actually, you know what? Actually,
give you something to devote yourself to, and
often having something to distract you is part of the process of fighting.
Yeah,
because I'm not just davening is incredibly powerful. You need something else to distract you. And I think mentally, I'm still suffering right now. But the one thing that always is with me today is my love for Hashem will never go.
Wow, that's incredible, Joel.
The amount I admire him.
I think we're gonna have to end it off
Yeah,
here.
you said half an hour.
Yeah, that was the plan, but it was too much of an incredible story to stop. And like, I'm sure you've inspired the hundreds of people, the millions of people that are listening to this podcast.
I'm not encouraging them to go create themselves a leaky valve so they can experience the same thing.
That is very good of you. Thank you for putting that disclaimer at the end. Shuri, thank you so much. I think we're gonna hopefully post this either today or tomorrow. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And yeah, I hope. Do you have any final words you want to share with everyone? Any words of wisdom to part with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Firstly, if any of you have been affected by any of what I've discussed, feel free to reach out to Avi into the podcast, and I'm happy for him to give you my details. And secondly, sort of my parting message is, there is a purpose to life for every single person in this world. And even if you don't think that actually you can compare any experience you're having to me, either it's going to, God forbid, it's going to come later in life, but actually you are definitely experiencing something. But whatever you're experiencing is because God believes that you need to experience that at the time. And the true message actually is that life is just a roller coaster, almost as scary as Stealth at Thorpe Park. And to try and enjoy and take in and soak up every single moment. Because if you do that, then you are achieving God's mission. But more importantly, it's so important, so vital, that you never lose sight on the world you live in, the people you love, and the fact that there's actually somebody, your worth, but it's the fact that there's somebody up there that is giving you things because it's at the right time for you, giving them to you, giving these challenges to you, or these rewards to you for a reason, and to always remain privileged for the life that you're living, however good or bad it is, because, as it says in Mesilas Yesharim, your life in this world is just on what you're just going through a massive corridor. You're going to really reap the rewards in the world to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joel, what a beautiful way to end this. Thank you so much.
No problem.
See you all.